So, kind of give us the lowdown. How many years did you do? What were you facing? What was the charges? All that good stuff. Just kind of in a nutshell.
It was distribution of methamphetamine, trafficking in methamphetamine, conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine. I've been charged with about every type of crime for methamphetamine that you can be. And I've also had marijuana charges.
Which of the charges was your biggest charge?
It was a life sentence.
And which was?
It was count 6 on my case in Oklahoma.
Was it weed or meth?
It was for meth.
It was for the meth. Oh, okay.
Yes, I had 6. I was up on 6 charges.
6 charges.
Yes, and on the 6th one, I received a life sentence.
Ooh. So what was
It was for 1 ounce of methamphetamine sold to a undercover agent.
What year?
A confidential informant, actually. The guy wasn't even an agent. He was just an individual that took it upon himself to come after me and help them to get me for like a hater type of thing.
Yeah, okay. How long did you know the guy before it actually went down?
I known him and I was good to him. I loaned him $3,000. And whenever I jammed him up and asked him about it, my phone was tapped and the agents called him immediately and said, "Hey, you can't be going back to a guy's house that we've already done a controlled buy. It's illegal." So the whole thing was illegal to start with. And I knew it, but I couldn't prove all that in court because I didn't have all the recordings. They was in control of all that. So, but yes.
You just kind of just
yes, and I was good to the guy. But I had a game foul in my backyard.
Yeah.
About, I don't know, probably 70, 75, fighting cocks in the backyard.
Yeah.
And I was walking through there with that guy. And he had a recording on him. It looked like a pack of Marlboros. It looked identical because he took it out once I got him inside the house. After we walked around, he recorded that, and I sold him an ounce of meth for $1,000, and I sold him a pound of marijuana for $600. And they said it was 2 separate deals, but it went down all at one time. But they said it was 2 separate, and I received 90 years for each one. And then when they come back 5 days later and I sold him the ounce, the next one, I got a life sentence for that one.
Damn.
But the first 2 was conspiracy to traffic methamphetamine on a cell phone and conspiracy to traffic marijuana on a cell phone. I received 50 years for each one of those, 85% trafficking. All that is 85%.
So tell everybody what the total amount of years they gave.
And I also received 5 years for using a cell phone to do that as well, running separate. There were 6 different sentences.
Wow.
And it was 285 years plus life. Now, I had already done 10 years in federal prison from 1992 to 2002. But boy, that's where I met some real ballers, And whenever as soon as my feet hit the bricks, why, I was off and running. And they sent me to a place down there in the mountains, down there in southwest Oklahoma. And as soon as I drove up there in the driveway, I seen 2 motorcycles, and they had California license plates on them. So I thought, oh man, I wonder, just what am I really driving into here? And sure enough, this guy was taking the chain, just raising the door. And for as far as I could see in this room, wasn't nothing but bales of marijuana. Not bales, but like bricks, 8, 10, and 12-pound blocks of marijuana stacked in there. And then off to the left, when I walked in, looked like 2 Hell's Angels. I don't know if they was, but they was for damn sure some big bikers. One of them was holding the back end of a motorcycle up, and the other dude was sticking the shaft, what the bolt or whatever to hold the tire on. I'm not a motorcycle mechanic, but that's what was going on, and I didn't say a word. They said, "You've already talked to Sonny," and I said, "Yes, I have." And they said, so have we. So we're going to load the back of this car, and I backed my Lincoln up there, and they put 205 pounds in there, and I hadn't been out of federal prison very long, and I didn't know just what I was going there to get, but I had no idea I was going there to get that much. And at that time, he patted me on the back, said, I think you owe 105,000 something, whatever it was. It was and we'll see you in a month. Yeah. And I white-knuckled out of there. I'm not going to lie to you. I white-knuckled out of there. I was pretty much scared to death because I just had bit off kind of, maybe not more than I could chew, but maybe more than I should have. And but I got it. I went on up by Tulsa up there ended up being one of my fall partners, one of the 24 people that went with me in my conspiracy case.
24 of them?
24, yes.
Wow.
Even they ended up involving my son in the end, but he ended up not getting anything because it just was unethical what they was trying to make him do. And he didn't sell no drugs, or he was just around me. It was my fault that he was...
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been in that position myself.
He was 19 and 20 years old, and I shouldn't have done things in front of him that I was doing, but anyway.
Man, so we're going to just go some questions. We're going to start off with background, okay? So background, crime. So let's go back to, how about we go, we'll touch up on this a little bit. Back to your childhood. Like, what led you to get involved in the drug scene?
Well, just walking back and forth from school to my house in about halfway point was a friend of mine at school, and he just had an older sister that knew people, and he liked Batman, I liked Batman. And we'd watch Batman, and then we'd watch different shows, Gilligan's Island, different ones back then, but our favorite one was Batman. Okay. And we'd go there, and they had... there used to be a drug back then. It was called tea. They called it tea. It was just like a yellow powder, kind of like Cannabinol or whatever. It was strong powder, just the smallest little line of it for $5, and you'd be slurring your speech for 3 hours and be high for the next 8 or 9. Dang. It was tough. Yeah, it was stronger back then. Oh my goodness, yes. And there was it looked like guppy food to me. Flakes, angel dust.
What year is this?
I was in freshman, and I graduated in 81, so it had been 77, 78, 79, 80, all right in there.
Okay.
Colombian marijuana used to be $60 an ounce in one summer, and Jimmy Carter was right in there, and then it went from 40, then it went 60, 80 to 100 all in one summer. And man, everybody was like, God, I don't know if I can afford it. But it was real Colombian before, you could get the pressed Mexican. It was before you'd see exotic, like all the stuff that's grown now. It wasn't like that back then. There was a few maybe hit out growers like that, but under the lights, but nothing like that. And the best weed was the Colombian.
Yeah.
And the actual last one that I seen was in... maybe 1980 up in Edmond, Oklahoma, in a coffee can. And we opened up the last. I'd been getting some like that in a coffee can, but the last one I got was out of a coffee can from Colombia, and it was just Colombian gold marijuana. Boy, it was some of the best you could ever get. They called it Bow. Bow.
Like elbow, like
it was just like elbow or Bow, and Colombian. It was just excellent. But I started running into the problems whenever I started driving when it was 55 miles an hour. That was the problem. Because nowadays people don't really realize, because you can just get up and go how you want just about on these highways to a certain extent, 80, 85. Yeah. Well, you couldn't do none of that. It was 55. I don't care where you was at. If you was on, and it didn't matter, 55. And I'd get pulled over. Well, I'd have a little bit of, I like smoking weed and, having my little fun. Never was much on drinking, not a lot. Never had a DUI, never had that problem. But just smoking weed, and next thing you know, it might get down to having to scrape some seeds out of the back of my car.
We've all Hey,
I've got stopped by Oklahoma State Trooper on Old Route 66, and the state trooper took $36,000 from me, and they ended up using the seeds that they dug out of the back of my floorboard, yes, out of a 65 Chevy that I had, yes, and that's the God's honest truth.
Hey, tell them to hit that like button if they've ever had to dig weed out of their car to smoke it. I've had to. I know back when I was a kid. So, wow.
But yes, I've had problems with state troopers. I've had trouble with state troopers getting pulled over. They took that money from me, and it just caused all kind of problems, impounded my car and just all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Really changed my life for a while.
Oh yeah, they'll wreck you.
Yeah,
Wreck your life.
and it just graduated and went on, and then I watched a few movies that kind of probably influenced me. Oh yeah, like probably all the big drug deal ones. That all of the above. Everything that
What
was.
were some of your favorites?
But I was locked up. Ended up being locked up at Texarkana Federal Prison with some of those guys.
In which movies?
No, not the actors,
the
but
real guys.
like some of the people that was involved with coming across there, and they had Barry Seals was who the flyer of the airplane was. They ended up killing him. They put him in a federal halfway house and killed. Some people went.
Details on that.
Well, it's big. There's a movie even on that about Barry Seals, but they was down the run was another guy that was involved in the Noriega deal where Contras was trading the guns for cocaine. They was taking the guns down there, unloading them, and then filling up the airplanes. The airplane, that's what Barry Seals and him did with cocaine. Well, they was just done it and just wore them out, just like was flying it left and right, and finally got the law on them. Well, once they broke Barry, then they put cameras inside there. They got a CHOA. There was all kinds of big-time drug lords standing at the back of the airplane with the cameras. The feds had the DEA, whoever had the cameras on them, and that's how they got that whole ring. Yeah. Well, there was a guy there that was in there with that the Oliver North case too, that was all involved in that. Wow. There was a guy there was an attorney for him, and they tried to kill this guy, tried to choke him. They put a deal on his neck and throwed him down a flight of stairs. He lived through it. Yeah, they had gouged at his eyes. He was just about blind. They tried to kill this guy.
And the prison you were at?
Yes, at Texarkana, yes.
And so, that's insane.
I was in there from 1993 to 1998 at Texarkana Federal Prison, and that's where I met this guy.
Go down?